Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Alex Romero from Galasso Learning Solutions. This week we'll be looking at the Federal Audit Clearinghouse's updates. So what does this all entail? Well, what this is the Federal Audit Clearinghouse that is administered by the General Service Administration, GSA, have put out this proposal about the information that they collect and if there should be any changes to that. So this was released on August 28th of 2025, and it was specifically the Technology Transformation Service Division that's under the GSA that released this. So a little bit of background about it is that the FCA, the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, is the ones that collect and makes public all the information about the single audits. So this is looking at, do we need to have changes to improve the clarity and to be able to have the data usable for people that are looking at it and really reporting those findings that they do have in some of these single audits. So why is the GSA looking at making some of these changes and updates? Well, we have two sides here. We have the regulatory rationale and we also have the practical rationale. So on the regulatory side, which is this bucket over here, is that we're looking at wanting to comply with that Paperwork Reduction Act and better alignment with having uniform guidance. Now over on the practical side, as we said, we're looking for something that's going to be more transparent, is going to have some more reliable information, and something that's easily usable by individuals that are out there looking at these different reports. So what are those key revisions that we are looking at? Well, one of them is an optional resubmission pathway. The next item that's really important is the structured fields for audit findings. So typically when you have audit findings, this is going to be within the narrative text, which means that you're going to have to read through everything. What this is looking at is having separate fields for improved clarity and that usability of the data, especially when we're looking at things like the question cost. What caused this? What do we think the effect is going to be? And also what were the recommendations and the responses by the entity underneath the single audit. We're also looking at having a new yes and no web form fields again, so you can go in and it's just easier for you to supply the information by saying whether known fraud or likely fraud, yes or no. Now, I put in this slide deck about the annual reporting burden. And the reason I added this is because this is part of the request for comments. They want to know if they did this accurately, if this really is the hours that's being done by these different entities to supply this information. So the GSA has gone through and estimated that they have 90,000 responses, and that includes 45,000 auditees and 45,000 auditors, and that on average, we have about 100 hours being spent by those larger respondents, and there's about 450 of those. And then the remaining number of 89,550 is spending about 21 hours on this information. And so the total burden is that 1.9 million hours. So the request for comments on this is really centered around, is this necessary? Do we need to have these updates? Is it going to be beneficial? Is this estimation of the burden accurate? Are we going to be able to see that this is going to improve the research, or is going to improve what is being reported, and also having it clear and the information consistent from everybody? And do we have the ability to kind of minimize the burden of those auditors and auditees that are reporting this information if we make these different changes in here? So we have a couple more weeks to go ahead and add comments about this. The comments are going to be due on October 27th, 2025. So if you have anything you would like to add about this to the GSA, just want to make sure you get it done by that date. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Genuine Learning Blog. Always remember that you can go to our website, GalassoLearningSolutions.com, to see all the different course offerings we have for your CPE needs. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time.